I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you will please stand for our invocation and our pledge.
Good evening, everyone. Let us bow our heads and go through the throne of grace. Our Father, which art in heaven, once again we assemble ourselves in the seat of government of Cartersville, Georgia, to do the work that's assigned to us. We ask you, Father, to come down and give us wisdom and knowledge to do the right things for our constituents. We bless you, we praise your name, and we give you all the honor and the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We'll be led in the pledge by Mr. Belleville this evening. Go ahead and do the honors.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Holman, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Here. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Taft Wren, Ward 6.
Here. Thank you, Meredith. Our first order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from our March 1st meeting. Council, you've had an opportunity to look these over in advance and make any edits. And now would be the chance to make those edits. So if there are none, a motion would be in order.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved unanimously. We have got a great way to kick off this meeting tonight. We're going to celebrate Mr. Carl G. Belleville, who's recently celebrated his 100th birthday. Well, we'll be celebrating his 100th birthday here at the end of the month. And the family had contacted me a few months ago if I would be able to do a proclamation. And I said, well, heck yeah, let's do that. And we'll do it at a council. We'll present it at a council meeting. And in addition to that, we'll let him lead us in the pledge, which he just did in fine fashion. I will read some of this proclamation to you before I present it. It says that whereas Carl G. Belleville, son of Homer Belleville, stepson of Millie Belleville, was born in Huntington, West Virginia on Easter Sunday, March 31st, 1918, and raised in Maryville, Ohio. During high school, held down 3 jobs to support his family, and then 3 days after his high school graduation in '36, he moved to Port Columbus, Ohio, and then purchased his first airplane 4 days later, an OX-5 Waco 10, and had a license. He worked as an airplane flight line mechanic, making $5 a week. Hopefully he didn't spend all that in one place. And a private pilot, stunt pilot, crop duster on the side for 4 years before making a Culver aircraft in Columbus and Wichita, Kansas, while also being on loan to Aeronca aircraft as a test pilot. He enlisted into the Army Corps during World War II as a pilot, served the European theater and Africa, flying single and multi-engine planes. He was part of an aero supply effort, flying gasoline and trans in support of General Patton's 3rd Armored Division in early 1945. He also flew a glider from France into Germany behind enemy lines to deliver troops and equipment. He survived severe injuries to his head and leg when his P-51 was shot down, lost an engine to enemy aircraft fire during a glider tow with his C-47 struck and by another C-47. Participated in Operation Varsity to liberate Holland, flying Holocaust victims from Germany into Belgium and Luxembourg. Carl was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross Combat Air Medal with numerous clusters. His Air Force uniform is on display at the Greene County Museum in Xenia, Ohio. He retired from the Air Force in civil service after traveling with Patty's primary caregiver for 10 years. Patty passed away nearly 36 years of marriage, and he provided care and assistance to Patty's 2 widowed sisters, Edna and Dorothy. He regularly attends and has organized World War II reunions for the 441st Troop Carrier Squadron, the OX-5 Waco Pioneer Club, Consolidated Troop Carrier Group, Glider Pilots Association, and 60th Troop Carrier Squadron. Currently resides in Cartersville, is in good health, lives on his own, works out about twice a week, that's more than I do, and at PT, and has a current driver's license and car. I'm surprised you squeezed all that into 100 years, sir. Therefore, I, Matthew J. Santini, Mayor of the City of Cartersville, do proclaim March 31st of 2018 as Major Carl G. Belleville Day, and desire to use this means to recognize and congratulate Mr. Belleville on the momentous occasion of his 100th birthday. All right, Chief McCann, why don't you handle the next item for us, please, sir?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The police department has been state certified by the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police since 2001. In the fall of 2017, we had representatives of GACP come to the police department and evaluate the policies and procedures of the department. And subsequently, they recommended to the board of GACP that we get approved to be recertified for our state certification in December. Chief William Westenberger is here. He's the Chief of Police of Kennesaw to present a plaque to the police department in the city. And also I'd like to recognize Captain Deputy Chief Jason DePrima, Captain Hubert Ledbetter, and Lieutenant Mike Badacoffer, who worked extremely hard to make that happen. So I'm going to ask them to come forward and
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Chief McCann said, I'm Bill Westenberger. I'm with the City of Kennesaw Police Department. I also represent the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police and their executive board. So it's a pleasure for me to be here with you all tonight and make this presentation. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background about what certification is. It's a progressive and time-proven way helping law enforcement agencies review and improve their overall performances. The foundation of certification lies in the development of standards containing a clear statement of professional objectives. Participating agencies conduct a thorough self-analysis to determine how existing operations can be adapted to meet these objectives. After the policies and procedures are in place, a team of trained assessors verifies that the applicable standards have been successfully implemented. The process culminates when the Joint Review Committee determines that the agency meets the requirements for certification. Certification status represents a significant professional achievement. It acknowledges the implementation of policies and procedures that are conceptually sound and operationally effective. Confirmation that the agency practices are consistent with progressive professional standards, greater operational and administrative effectiveness, enhanced understanding of agency policies and practices, greater public confidence in the agency, recognition in the field of outstanding achievement, reduced liability potential from GMA, in local government risk management, and greater government and community support. The history of the certification program dates back to March 1990, but in late 1996, Georgia Chiefs Association assigned a committee along with key members from the Georgia Police Accreditation Coalition, which is known as GPAC, to review and further develop the process to the point where it became a viable, workable program. From this collaborative effort, the law enforcement certification program endorsed by the state of Georgia was born. As far as the standards, the agency certification program identifies standards that are felt to be essential to the efficient and effective operation of law enforcement agencies. Participating agencies are expected to implement all applicable standards. Some standards do not apply to all agencies, and waivers may be obtained in some circumstances. The standards provide a detailed blueprint for professional law enforcement. They are credible, realistic, flexible, and effective, and under constant review. The standards incorporate contemporary professional thought and practices in Georgia law enforcement, and if followed, ensure the goal of increasing effectiveness and efficiency of the agency seeking certification. The Cartersville Police Department has completed 5 of the 6 steps in the certification process. The amount of time an agency takes to complete the process varies depending upon the amount of work and the needs to be accomplished, and the time that can be committed to the task of drafting and implementing new procedures. The steps of the certification process are application, policy development and compliance, assessment, joint committee review, award ceremony. Only step 6 remains, which is ongoing compliance and monitoring. As you can see, state law enforcement certification is earned by a law enforcement agency that prepares and follows policies and procedures. And the process I have described, these are the considered best practices for Georgia law enforcement. Of more than 650 law enforcement agencies in Georgia, only 126 achieved this status. By presenting this award by the Georgia State Certification Program recognizes an agency for doing the right things and doing things right. State certification shows that the Cartersville Police Department has illustrated professionalism in law enforcement. To achieve state certification, the Cartersville Police Department, under the 5th edition standards, had to meet 129 standards of the Georgia Certification Program, covering 8 areas essential to effective law enforcement. These standards provide a blueprint for professional law enforcement. The standards also incorporate contemporary professional and thought practices in Georgia. The high standards ensure meeting the goal of increasing the effectiveness and efficiency that Georgia law enforcement agencies require. Additionally, proof of compliance with these standards must be provided by the state certified assessors that make an on-site visit. As Chief McCann mentioned, all standards that are not waived must be met. Joint Review Committee is made up of representatives from other law enforcement agencies, then reviews the assessor's report. The Joint Review Committee must approve the report from the agency and can receive state certification. And I'm here again to present the City of Cartersville, Chief McCann and his staff for a job well done in pulling this off. I know I was a certification manager myself in the past, and it is tough work. So keeping these papers and orders in file and making sure everything's going right. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to the Cartersville Police Department.
Thank you.
You earned it. You hold it. You earned it.
Good job.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Job well done. Thank you. Mr. Porter, you've got the next item, please.
Yes,
So the next
Mayor.
couple.
Bartow County MPO Department would like us to pass this resolution, which will allow us to make application or for a feasibility location study for a possible downtown part of the railroad overpass. As discussed in the work session, this is something that they would like the City Council to approve, but that's up to the City Council to determine that.
Okay, and as also mentioned in the work session, this is something that's been in the Cartersville transportation plan since just prior to 2000. And was well discussed in work session, so now's an opportunity for other discussion or for action to be taken.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this, but ask that they incorporate the possibility of a pedestrian bridge in downtown, as well as expanding the study to include the Mission Road, the track that blocks Mission Road so often.
Okay. We got a motion on that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Uh,
Any opposed? Sorry. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Sorry about that. Continue on, Mr. Porter.
Yes, Mayor, Shaw Create easement, staff has, currently already has the easement in place, but there needs to be some language that needs to be tweaked on this existing one. Of course, we serve the new Shaw Create Center, and I recommend approval of this easement, new language in the easement.
Questions, comments, or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Anybody else want to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, it's time for the Bob Jones Show. I think you got 6 of them tonight, Bob.
I do. It may be a record. First up, we have a couple of easements. These are related to our ARC downtown water main project. We secured a grant from the ARC, gosh, probably over a year ago now, maybe closer to 2, to help fund this project. We are right at the kickoff point of getting this to bid. One of the last steps is procuring the needed easements, and we have 2 of those for you tonight. First up will be an easement at 10 West Main Street. It's owned by James R. and D.D. Gilreath. It's behind the old hardware store. The water line's coming in actually behind that location. There was a valuation study done. We have a standard offer formula that we use. When we applied all those metrics, the total came out to $14,000 even for this particular easement, and would ask for your approval of that. This is a budgeted project.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next one, please.
The next one is essentially the exact same explanation. It's just a different location. This is at 2 West Main Street. This would be Mr. William Tatum. I think we're all familiar with this place. This will be a continuation behind that block of buildings, wrapping around the old Coke sign between there and the railroad, coming back to Main Street. Essentially, same process was used. The total there, based on square footage, came to $14,265.06 in this case. Would ask for your approval for that as well.
Okay, questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. When is the planned beginning of construction on that project?
Well, we were talking about that at the meeting. Really what we'll do is we'll sit down and work with Lily. She's sort of been our liaison with the local merchants down there, and we know there are some areas that we need to stay off of. So we will work out blocking out certain parts of time to work in certain areas, and we'll have to incorporate that into the bid so that the contractors can price accordingly. Realistically, I think the earliest you would see us starting to break ground down there is probably 4 months.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Next up, I think we have our dewatering pumps. Back in September, council authorized some work in the wastewater plant. In order to accomplish the work, we actually have to pump the entire forward flow of the plant around the work area, thus the need for dewatering pumps. We got a quote from Xylem, which is a local company here on Old Mill Road. They've done multiple projects like this for us. They quoted us a weekly rate of $6,346.14. I'm going to ask council to approve a not to exceed of $13,000 for a couple of reasons. One, it would allow us to have longer to work should we need it. Second, if we have a high flow event, we may actually need a 4th pump in addition to the 3 that they quoted. So this would just give us some operational flexibility without having to come back here and clean up after the fact. So would ask for the $13,000 approval on this one tonight.
Thank you. Any discussion, and if not, a motion?
Motion to approve and not to exceed the 13,000.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Continue on, Bob.
Center Road Pump Station Generator. The Center Road Pump Station supplies water to what we call our high-pressure system. This serves any facilities, any residents above 900 feet in elevation. The area that probably most people are familiar with is the new development out Main Street around Kroger in that area, really down to Steak and Shake or IHOP, somewhere in that area is the transition line. There's been a good bit of growth on our system in that area. This is also serves an area of the county out Highway 20. What we're noticing is there is a much shorter fill and drain cycle on the tank, which indicates that demand is going up. And what we used to rely on was a longer cycle if we had a mechanical problem or a power outage. When this pump station was built, it was actually constructed by the county and given to us in 2005. There was no provision made for a backup generator. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to repurpose a generator we have that's in a decommissioned facility, move it over there, and we need to do some electrical work to make the hookup possible. We bid that work to, we actually solicited bids from 4 vendors, got bids back from 2. The low price bid was from Patrick Kelly Electric at $15,300. There was one local bid, JDH Electric. They came back at $15,550 and would present you the JDH bid as the best bid. Being the price difference in the locality, we feel like that should there be any warranty work or follow-up work, the logistics of having a local service provider would certainly merit the additional $250, and would present that to you for your approval. This is a budgeted item.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the lowest and best bid from JDH Electric.
Second.
Well, just to clean that up, actually, those are two different things, the lowest and the best.
This is, but,
Is your,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation was for JDH, which is, $250 higher, but
I
we
think the
certainly feel that's
documentation
justified.
in the packet is incorrect, though, is what I.
Oh, is that what, okay.
The best bid.
The best bid for JDH, all right. That's your motion, right?
Yes.
And then, does that second still hold? We did
Second.
Thank you, appreciate that. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, Bob.
Next up is the number 2 high service pump building stabilization. This is a project we've talked about for quite a while. This is the building with all the cracks in it, foundation failure. We've gotten both of the old pumps replaced, which is what we were waiting on in order to do this work. We received sealed bids here in this room on Thursday, March 1st. We had 4 bidders. The low bid was Saul Construction at $1,193,475, and would recommend that for your approval, and this too is a budgeted project.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? And if not, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
Yeah, I believe we've reached the last one. We need to retain the services of Evoqua. They are the original equipment manufacturer for our much lauded, often, well, I won't finish that sentence. They're our screw pumps. They're our old friends.
One, right?
Yes, right. We have one pump that's particularly a problem child. We feel like there's some issues with misalignment with it, and we have done all we know to do to it. So this would allow us to retain a factory technician to come out, look the thing over from top to bottom, and give us an assessment and hopefully a repair at the same time that will be a lasting repair. They quoted us a price of $6,050 for the first full day for their repair crew, and then $1,500 for each additional day. What I'd like to do is just ask for a not to exceed of $8,000. That'll give us a good 2 days with miscellaneous expenses to get them out and have them look this thing over. While it feels awfully expensive for one person to come down and take a look at something, you have to recall that The pump itself is $250,000. Each bearing that we tear up in the bottom is $15,000. And if we can spend this and get that stopped, it feels like it's money well spent. So would recommend that for your approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Go ahead and have a seat. You've been standing up there a while. Mr. Hasselbrock.
Bob yields the floor, right?
That's right.
The electric department does an annual check on electrical meters using a third-party contractor. And we check for the accuracy of the meters checked, and for our larger industrial and commercial customers. And we test approximately 60 to 70 meters annually at a price of $105 per meter tested. So the current contractor we have contract with is M&R Services. We're asking council to approve the meter testing by M&R Services for a not-to-exceed price of $7,350. And this is a budgeted item.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Riggs.
Yes, Mayor, this is some PE, 4-inch PE pipe we need for several subdivisions that we're going to provide service in, and it's $10,022.40.
Okay. Any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Chief King, you got the next two, please, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are requesting approval of the purchase of a new thermal imaging camera for the new fire truck that's due to arrive in May. It is a MSA Evolution. It's identical to the other units we have on our other trucks. We received 2 bids from 2 of our vendors. Fireline was $7,185, and 10-8 Equipment Company was $7,117.73, and we recommend to go with the low bid.
Okay. Any discussion on this item?
Just a point of fact, Sam pointed out at the staff meeting last week, the first one of these we bought was about $30,000. So the price has come down, but they've been well used in the department.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
This is to be purchased through is a budgeted item to be purchased through the lease book.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please, Ray.
We are requesting the approval to proceed with the budgeted firefighter and rescue all-terrain vehicle. This vehicle will provide us with firefighting and rescue capabilities in rough terrain and adverse weather, primarily to be used in a city trail system, increased urban interface, and such as the Carter Grove and the Pine Mountain Trail. Bids were hand-delivered for the UTV to local vendors. 2 were returned. Reinhardt had the low bid of $15,792, and it was $3,400 lower than AgPro. So on the UTV, we request to go with the low bid. We're requesting approval for the final package not to exceed $29,000, which is $1,000 under the budget amount. And this includes the UTV, the light package, the striping, and the trailer to haul it on. And this is also to be paid for through the lease book.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief on this?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Do we currently have any vehicles that like this in our fleet or in the fire department?
We do. We have one that is it's a 2004 John Deere Gator.
Okay.
And it's quite a bit smaller. It does not have the firefighting capability that this unit will have, and it won't access areas this thing will.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. Our Dillinger Pool, we're getting ready to start operating it for the summer. We've got some repair work to be done. We've got 2 corners, expansion joint, and some hollow spots that need to be repaired. We have a pool contractor that's doing the Aubrey Street pool. Received a price from them in the amount of $6,381 for those repairs at Dillinger Park, and I recommend approval of those repairs that will be paid for out of our general maintenance for outdoor facilities.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Continue on, Greg.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, back in October of last year, City Council approved a contract for the leasing of advertising space for our scoreboards at Dillinger Park, 6 softball fields, 1 football field. We came back, actually this was the second time we came back and amended our fee structure to lower it. We could not sell our original ads. We now have someone that wishes to purchase all of them at our agreed price. That would be a 5-year contract for $14,000. And this is from ON Security Solutions, and I recommend approval of this.
Okay.
And ask Mayor to sign any and all related documents.
Any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Porter, before you get started, we do have one item to add to the agenda. I'll have to entertain a motion to add that item.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item is added. Next 3, please, Mr. Porter.
Yes, sir. The next one is co-location agreement with Parker FiberNet. They've been in our existing Cook Street building for about 6 years, and they are going to move into the new colo agreement we have, colo building Public Works parking lot, basically at a space of $650 a month, the lease amount, and I recommend this agreement for your approval.
Okay. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item.
Yes, sir. The defibrillators, last month, the city council approved the purchase of 30 of those, and Fire Captain Chad Hendricks has gone around to all our buildings and done a more thorough review of those, found there was 3 units that were not up to code, and we need to replace those, as well as purchase an additional 4 more, so a total of 7. Recommend approval to purchase 7 units at $8,419.41.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Last item for you, Dan.
Yes,
please.
the added item, Mayor, is the Etowah Area Consolidated Housing Authority. We have a recommendation for Edie Smith to be on that board, and this has been recommended for your approval.
Before we go forward with that, I do want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Cooley for his service on the Housing Authority, and because of taking this position, I guess you can't serve on that anymore. And I know that breaks you up. You're only serving on about 5 or 6 different things, so you get to check one off. You added one, and you got to subtract one. Is there anything you'd like to say about the person you've put up for this appointment?
Well, first off, I served on this board for 26 years, long time, and I searched diligently to find a person that was really concerned and lived in the area for a while, and not just be a rubber stamp person. And when I mentioned her name to the group at Summer Hill and different locations, it was all, spoke very highly of her. You can see by her recommendation. And from me, she come highly recommended.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other discussion? And if not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Monthly financial statement time. Mr. Reinhardt, come enlighten us, please.
I will do my best. Honorable Mayor and Council will be looking at the financial report tonight and comparing the January 2018 to January 2017. The general fund revenues decreased over last January by $435,000. Expenses increased by $1.1 million. If you remember, early in July, we made a purchase on a fire truck. 3 areas of revenues I look at on a monthly basis are local option sales tax, We are up on that one by about $93,000. Police fines and forfeitures, we have an increase there of about $41,000. Building permits and inspection fees were down there by about $53,000. The water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last January by $234,000. Expenses increased by $404,000, and this increase is due to increased personnel and increased capital expenditures. In the gas fund, excuse me, revenues increased over last January by $1.2 million. Expenses increased by $304,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased costs of purchased gas, and increased capital expenses. In the electric fund, revenues decreased over last year by $1.9 million. Expenses increased by $449,000 due mainly to increased personnel costs, increased operating expenses, and increased cost of purchased electricity. In the stormwater fund, revenues increased over last January by $23,000. Expenses decreased by $9,000, and this is due mainly to decreased capital expenditures. Solid waste fund, revenues increased over last January by $40,000. Expenses increased by $231,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. However, in this fund, we are expecting a reimbursement from GMA for lease pool that we made back in October. And finally, in the fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last January by $72,000. Expenses increased by $296,000 due to increased operating expenses and increased capital expenses.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom on the finance report? I do have to wonder, I guess Gary goes to bed every night hoping to heck that the cold weather's gonna stay, and Don goes to bed hoping it's gonna get warmer so you sell more electricity. So it's either one or the other, it seems, with the temperatures, and of course the extended cold weather's had a positive effect on our gas fund, it looks like.
Yes.
So, any other comments on the finance report?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're ending our meeting a little bit differently than we typically do tonight. We will, in a moment, I'll be taking a motion to go into closed session for purposes of personnel. We will be in there for an extended period of time. Council will not be taking any action at the tail end of that meeting. And so if you want to sit around for the next extended period of time and wait for us to come out and adjourn without taking any action, you're certainly welcome to do that. I will say to staff, like I did in the work session, feel free to go watch whatever basketball is left of the evening. There's an awful lot of it, I'm sure. But at this time, we will not be adjourning, but we will be, I'll take a motion to go into closed session for purposes of personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And we will head into that. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.